In today's video, hey there guys, Agent Not So Lazy here. So today I'll try my best how to teach you to get into Eidolon fights and how to build amp that can take you a long way into the game and eventually leading to the best setup you can have as operator, which will be very supportive to Warframe in the current Warframe's playstyle. And once again, before I begin, I would like to remind you guys that this guide is more oriented towards the newer players who have like less than 200 hours into the game. Yes, I do calculate the player's experience in the game through the in-game hours, so fight me for that if you want to. So I know that the builds towards the end game gets very convoluted, like it all comes down to personal preference or is the best setup at the end. But I think so it'll be a very different experience from what's going to be shown here. With that, I would like to stop my introduction and let's get into the video. So you have already dumped over hundreds of hours in Warframe till now, and may even have completed the story quest like War Within or even New War for some of the players. So you are wondering what to do next, or might not even have done something called as Eidolon fights yet. So next point in the game, that's the Eidolon fights. That's where you get your arcanes and amp parts from. It's kind of very bad system what Warframe has designed that where if you want to get an amp you have to play in Eidolon fights which requires a good amp. Else you won't deal a good amount of damage which will be enough for you to sustain in that level, because if you see in a proper setup ideally you will take only like 8 to 10 minutes per round, which will lead to like 4 to 6 Eidolon captures within one night, even within an organized lobby or a casual lobby. And yet again you'll end up in a situation where you only have the more time for starting, or even Sikor for some of you who have completed the new war. I am not going to be carrying over spoilers in this video because I want to be as straightforward as I can. So you have the basic amp and the basic whatever. So what do you do at this point? You can't deal damage, nobody is going to take you in a squad where even they say that it's a public squad and casual squad or whatever. So what you can do, go into Cetus at night, select the bounty of Eidolon Hunters from the Konzu guy. You can just focus on your one thing at this point. That's going to be the buffing your teammates. So you can take something like a Volt with very high strength, or a Rhino, or even Wisp, or whatever buff Warframe you have, which will increase the overall damage of your team. Even Oberon if you care to be a bit ballsy about that. So buff your teammate and try to get to rank 3 in Killzone as fast as you can, because the basic good amp, which is pretty good actually. And thanks to my friend Kronos for providing the footage here. As you can see, this is a 123 amp, but in the chat I messed up a bit because game doesn't like to show up the parts in unlock order. Instead it went with alphabetical for weird reason. So if you see in the chart, this is called the 122, but it's actually 123 amp because I think so the prism, no, not the prism, the scaffold unlocks at rank 3. So that's it, it's called the 123 amp. But it's in this future, if you're gonna refer, it's gonna be the 122 amp, as I would like to go forward in the video, because why not? My video, my rules, I guess. There is one thing I have learned the hard way, because when I played Warframe, my first 500 hours I didn't even know what was the Eidolon fight till I got into one. It was pretty challenging. So what I did was, I was playing as a role of traitor. I remember this is like quite a few years back when I was doing this. I know this is going to be a bit of a raw and unedited video because it's kind of long. Come back to the thing. Get rank 3 with Killzone as fast as you can. So as you can see in this, that's about it. I was actually referring to my keynote I had next to me, because I took like quite a few days to make this script because I was going to go rambling. I realized that. As for the 122 amp, every amp consists of one primary fire and one secondary fire. The default secondary fire keybind is going to be middle click. I know many of you who have started Warframe don't know what's the secondary fire. That's basically usually banded to a middle click. It can alter or change the entire gunplay style. So if you have a 123 amp or a 122 amp, if you press the middle click, it shoots out like a radial attack which has multi hits this amp, and that deals quite a bit of damage, as you can see. And this may be your very first amp. After Sikor or Motamp, though those things don't do as much damage. So for the 122 amp, as I like to call it, it's going to be the Rapluck Prism, Straxel Scaffold and the Jethini Brace. If you're going to be building it for only Mastery rank, like a mastery fodder for other weapons. Only the prism you're going to be using is going to be matter, and it only unlocks after you have killed it and maxed the amp. The 122 amp is basically a 2-hit Eidolon shield break if you're trying to do it solo. I have done quite a few solo runs, so I know how it feels. 2 hits, not that big of a damage even with a maximum Void Strike build. But the second fire is really useful. It can like one-shot kill those Bombalists, which gets pretty annoying in the Hydralist fight. So for the second amp after this, which is like upgrading to this, I recommend you to go to this room in Fortuna. I know many of the new players didn't even know this room existed because I have introduced around like how many around like 6 players recently in Warframe, among whom they were like every time they found something new, it was very interesting like to see their reaction. Being guide to them kind of taught me one thing is that not everyone knows everything in this game and kind of inspired me to make this video. If you come to Little Duck, she has quite a few more amps. And here now I'm gonna expand the chart. So yeah, that is 7 tiers of amp now for you. It's not just 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 5, 6, 7 as well. But the thing is 5, 6, 7 requires you to farm a lot of toroids from the Venus open world. You can just refer to the wiki for the toroid farming location. I'm not gonna go through those videos. Those points right now because there is more focus towards amp and the setup you're gonna be using for the Eidolon fights. So once you come to the Little Duck, you can basically get the 2 other main parts for the amp, which is going to be the prism and not the prism. Actually, the prism is the least worried because that's going to be only for 777 amp, which is like the maximum tier, which unlocks at rank 3 with Little Duck. And the other main parts you're going to be focusing on is going to be the Clamora prism. Let me see my script just a sec. It's been a while I wrote the script. It's like over the week. Proper scaffold and the Certus Blaze. My bad. I was like Clamora. Clamora is I think so one from the Ceters if I don't mistake. So yeah, this proper scaffold, it's like a bomb-ish thing which shoots out in a secondary fire. It can technically one-tap the sheets of Eidolon even before it spawns sometimes. I don't know how the thing works, that's more towards the optimization runs. That is a really good AoE. I just use it for like, if I see multiple Bombalists, I just do 2 of these bombs and just go back to my Warframe and boom, the Bombalists are dead and the loots are charged. I don't think so I have it in the footage right now, but that's one thing I do a lot. And that if you think you want to just deal a lot of damage to the shields of Eidolon, I recommend having the 177 amp, which is like the first amp's prism, which is the Rappler prism, along with the scaffold of Propa and the Certus Blaze. You can use this to like get a lot of damage on the Eidolons when you have the Void Strike active. Just one tap the head and boom, it's gone. The Bombalists do get deleted in 2 of the bombs on the secondary fire. I prefer this amp because it can literally it deals an insane amount of damage. Like I remember doing around over 5 million damage once, just with the setup I'm showing on the screen. It didn't upgrade much, but yeah. Other than that, you can build the 7.7 amp, which is more of a general purpose amp, which is a very all-rounder. Or you can go for 6.77, that's like a flamethrower. But the 7.77 has more like, what do they say, more projectiles per hit. Basically, it's like an auto rifle but with a lot of projectiles. I just prefer this amp because it's more general purpose and you can just you just need to look at the enemy only once and they're already dead. And that proper amp is only just half the equation in Eidolon fights. You also need to have a good operator, guns and Warframe. Ideally, in my vision, I see in an Eidolon fight is that you need to have 1 to 2 volts, 1 Trinity and a Harrow. Though I think so you can replace the Harrow with a Wisp for the extra fire rate boost, but I just prefer Harrow because just being safe. Harrow's work is just to save everyone from the magnetic procs on the Eidolon, where the Eidolon just after every limb is broken he releases the magnetic procs and you can just press Harrow's ult to resist everything. While Trinity is mainly used for damaging the Eidolon's shield while also keeping the loots alive or the teammates alive. And the Volt's part is just to drop the shields, take down the Eidolon, take down the limbs, everything. Just Volt is your main damage dealer. To buff your Volt, this is something I do myself, that is subsume Mirage's Eclipse into Trinity and put a total Eclipse augment on that so that the teammates can benefit from the damage. And that I know this is something that some advanced players do, and I wanted to make this focus towards new players. This is kind of a very big can worms because there's a lot of things that needs to be covered in a proper Eidolon fight. Coming back to the setup on amps, There's only two things you usually need in an amp. That's gonna be the amp arcane. I think it's called amp arcane, if I don't mistake. Yeah, amp arcanes and amp arcane adapter, which you get from this Cavallero guy in Zariman. So that's something you will only get after completing the New War and the Angels of Zariman quest. Usually you want to run the Eternal Eradicate and Eternal Onslaught amp, which is basically maximum damage boost. Because every time you use a void strike, you lose all your energy, so you get that juicy extra critical chance as well as the 60% base damage boost. Well, if you're a new player, you can get something called as Virtuous Shadow and Strike, which is a pretty good amp arcane if you ask me, because that's what people used to use before the new arcanes came out. For the operators, I recommend Magus Repair for healing your Warframes. That's something I run all the time because I run in public lobbies most of the time when I'm doing this kind of fights. Or you can just run with a Magus Vigor and Husk for a very tanky operator. Everything is unlocked from Quill's Uncle for this part, but you can also get something called a Magus Glitch, which increases not increases exactly, like every time you die as operator, when you will go back to Warframe, you don't get the transfer static. That's what Magus Glitch does, and it can be acquired from Little Duck in Fortuna. Last but not the least, the weapons. There's something, it's like it has been rule set by since the early players of Eidolon fighters. You want a deadly sniper with a radiation build or any weapon that can deal a lot of radiation damage. Top weapons which people use right now would be Rubico Prime, Lanka, Vectis, and recently even this weapon has picked up some pace. That's the Fenmore in its incarnate form, and some people do use something like Stropha, but I didn't find it very useful because aiming and the guns have a very slow attack speed, gun blades to be precise. As much as raw damage in radiation, that's one thing you need to be very focusing on when you're doing the Eidolon fights. Also, one more thing in the Eidolon fights, this is something I actually got as advice from my clanmate who was like helping me in drafting the script because it totally skipped my mind. It's about the stripping of armors of Eidolon. So you have this mod called as Shattering Impact, which goes on usually your gunblade. So every time a projectile hits the Eidolons, they lose certain amount of shield. Whenever you hit Eidolon, since they're going to be losing shields, this is the magic number. 233. So what is 233 now? 2 is basically how many times you need to attack the Eidolons using your gun blade whenever they spawn. So 2 is for the Tailish, while 3 is for Gauntlet and 3 is for Hydralisk. That's what I like to say, the 233. That's the amount of shots you need. Even for the number of loots, it's the same. 233. That's one thing everyone must remember. That is like a lot of loots that spawn. I put up the map in the screen just to let you know where the location I usually go to get the loots. If it doesn't spawn, you consider yourself unlucky, but whatever. For gunblades, usually it's recommended to have a Sarpa or a Redeemer or a Bastilok, and that's all about it. I guess this is kind of something guide I didn't wanted to make because of a lot of canvas gonna be open. If I didn't cover something, feel free to comment in the comment down below, and hope I could have explained what is an Eidolon fight in a very layman's term where you can watch the clip running in the background, like how it works and stuff. So guys, till then, take care, and I hope I see you next time within quite a few weeks, hopefully, because I'll be traveling soon and making videos while traveling is kind of hard. Peace out. I hope you have a nice day.